Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Recently, I was at an event, and our own Reverend Tonsmeyer did a prayer that was so beautiful that people requested a copy of it. And he sent it out, and I'd like to recite that tonight as our prayer. If you'll bow your heads with me. God of grace and God of glory, your creative hand is seen all around us. Majestic hills, flowing river, caring people. We celebrate our history, rich and cherished. We are blessed with a goodly heritage that also looks forward and into the future. Give us grateful hearts for food and friends. Guide us to be generous to those in need. Let your name be honored in all we do. Amen.
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 Join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for doing that. Ms. Keeling, the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Louis Tonsmeyer, Ward 3.
Here.
Lindsay McDaniel, Ward 4.
Here.
Diane Tate, Ward 5.
Here.
Lori Pruitt, Ward 6.
Thank you, Connie. First order of business this evening is the approval of our council meeting minutes from December 4th. Council, you've had these well in advance of this evening. Chair will entertain any edits, corrections, additions, or motions.
Make a motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved unanimously. We have a couple of items that we're going to have some appointments and some swearings in. And Mr. Lovell, I'll turn that over to you.
All right, the first one is y'all on an annual basis now, due to state law, have to swear in the municipal court judge and the assistant or the substitute municipal court judge. And that is Harry White and Jay Cho. And if they would approach the podium at this time, and Ms. Keeling will swear them in after you appoint them.
Okay, so can we do that in one
Yes,
motion?
yes,
Chair
you
will
can.
entertain any discussion or motion appointing these two gentlemen to their posts, as Keith mentioned.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Keeling, if you'll do the honors, please.
I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Georgia. That I will in all respects observe the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of the city of Cartersville. That I will faithfully discharge the duties of office.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of office.
And that I will truly,
honestly,
and faithfully
discharge
discharge the duties of this office
the duties of this office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
without fear, favor,
favor,
or partiality.
or partiality.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And they both do an excellent job for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you for your continued service.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We do have, in addition to those appointments, we have a series of other appointments. I've asked council ahead of time that we go through and handle all these appointments at one time. However, we do have an item to add to that list involving, Chair will entertain a motion to add that one item to the agenda at this time.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And the item is added to the agenda. It is relative to the appointment of a member to the Cartersville Downtown Development Authority. You have these lists of people that that have agreed to serve or continue serving. They include to the, I guess if I get my paper out and get my stuff together, that would look a lot better, wouldn't it? All right, Keith, you go ahead and do it. All right. So Sam said you could do that, and I obviously can.
Let me do it. I got them all written down. I'll do it.
Thank you.
It's appointment of Jennifer Matthews and Michael Gordon to the CVB Board. Appointment of Sonny Miller, Tommy Strickland, James Jarrett to the JDA Board, and also the Joint Cartersville Development Bartow County Regional Industrial Development Authority, those are both the same. Appointment of Cartersville Development Authority members Tommy Strickland, Walter Mahone, Robert Dabbs, and Sonny Miller. And then the DDA item that you had was appointment of Dan Kramer to replace Andy Bowen. And these are all for terms that are noted in the agenda.
And on the Cartersville Development Authority, that also included Mike Fields.
I didn't get him on there, did I?
Thank you. All right,
Forget about
so,
Mike.
council, what I'd ask is you've got this slate, you've seen them well in advance of tonight.
Very few.
To Chair would entertain a motion to approve all those previously mentioned to be either appointed or reappointed to those posts.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And motions are approved unanimously. That moves us to, if you're following along at home, item C1 on the agenda, which is the Parks and Recreational Facilities bond. Sam, you're going to handle
Yeah,
that for us,
kind of
please.
take us into that. This is the second reading of the bond that was approved in the, approved by the voters of Cartersville. This is a 10-year bond. It's $8.2 million with approximately 7.9 in project costs. There is some discussion in your agenda packets about whether it is plus or minus a mill. I would suggest to you that we wait till we get around to setting the mill next summer, and we'll better know what that is. It's going to be pretty close one way or the other. These have been placed, the rates at 2%, so that's all good news. Process going forward is we have an internal committee working on this, and they'll set up the schedule and kind of identify the projects. We are also working with the citizens group, and we will bring those pieces back to council in the overall schedule so that everybody knows what we're doing and that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So that's all good news. That's kind of it in the thumbnail. Keith is here relative to any kind of legal stuff, and of course Gabe, where are you? There he is. Gabe Agan from, who are you now, Raymond James? Okay. That structured the deal for us and put this together. Local guy, by the way, too. If you have any questions relative to that, but that's second reading on that, and it's recommended for your approval.
And when you approve it, you'll also be approving the bond purchase agreement and bond placement agreement and all the related documents.
Okay, so if somebody would like to, if there's no other discussion, any motion that's want to be thrown out there?
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Anderson, you have the next item?
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. This is, I guess this can be done after the last motion that was just passed. This is for the Leak Mounds Trail. This is an agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation, a T agreement, and it requires several city signatures, mayor and city clerk and city manager and city attorney. City attorney has reviewed this agreement, and I recommend that council agree for mayor and the appropriate ones to sign this document.
Okay. Any discussion?
I didn't bring my numbers with me, and I know that I asked you, and I'll just speak in generalities. I know that the project cost on this is $1.1 million, and that we're using a little over $300,000 of this bond money to leverage grants that are over $700,000. And I think that's a drum that we don't beat nearly enough, and I think that's a great thing when you get the state to pay for that.
Well, this grant is actually it's $400 more than I thought it was. It's for $750,400. It means the city's match. We are committing tonight $187,000, $187,600. And that would be for a project for $938,000. And then we have already spent on this project for engineering and acquisition $181,000. So we've almost met our match.
Sounds like a 2-to-1 match to me.
Yeah, well, it is.
Pretty good deal.
Yes. So anyway, and the project is $1.1 something million. That's the anticipated project that's done by Southland.
Thank you for keeping that alive and making sure we got that money. I know it's kind of tough.
Well, it's been since 2006.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
Question me. Greg, I think I've kept up with this, and I also appreciate you keeping it alive. The starting point and the ending point and the connectivity. Can you,
The starting point will be at the, we had a map the last time, I don't have it this time, but it's at the Riverwalk on Soundsmith Park. It's right there at the entrance to the soccer complex next to where the bus barn is. It will tie into the Riverwalk at that point, and it will progress out Milner Road, cross Cummings Road, parallel Walnut Grove Road, go in front of Bob's office, go in front of the wastewater treatment plant, and then cross Pettit Creek, just adjacent to the existing old iron bridge there. Then go in behind Monitor Corporation, and we'll share a trailhead with the new canoe kayak launch and the Leak Mounds Interpretive Trail.
How are we screening wise there between the trail and the wastewater plant? Are there trees there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the water department about 2 years ago, Jim wasn't really keen on the project
Oh, I
going
know.
right next to
Yeah, I remember.
next to the plant, so he put, he has planted a series of, Bob, what kind of trees are those that y'all plant there? Do you remember? Anyway, a very fast-growing cedar-type tree
Okay.
that is supposed to grow and it should, in about 3 or 4 years, will have a nice barrier.
and then we also got an easement across Walnut Grove Farm.
Walnut Grove Plantation donated 2 parcels, and then we had to buy a parcel from Hamilton State Bank there, what is right behind the Dollar General store now.
And then, Greg, as Carter Grove continues to develop, wasn't there also discussion about the connectivity, just keeping it on going through Carter Grove?
Well,
and
when Carter Grove was developed, they approached us about the width of our walking trails, and I think their main trail going in is 10 foot. But if I'm not mistaken, the last agreement council made with Carter Grove was that the Parks and Rec, not impact fees, but fees that they pay for each lot, that goes towards the development of the old iron bridge at Dothan Ferry, to create a pedestrian crossing, and that way would gain us access across the river and then access into Carter Grove.
But I guess my point for citizens is, at some point, this keeps connecting, people will really be able to go a long way, walking, biking, healthy community.
It is.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other discussion? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Lovell, you have the next item, please.
Carter Grove Bridge.
Yes.
Yes.
The,
You know what?
yes, no.
You ain't got the ball
Fair.
game on either.
I know. As y'all recall, back in 2004, we did a development agreement with Carter Grove. Of course, the original owners have since gone out of business, like a lot of developers did. We have a new owner of about 400 lots, potentially 400 lots in there. So we're doing an amendment to the development agreement, dealing with their continued payment, as Greg mentioned, of the Parks and Recreation impact fee and police and fire impact fee at the standards that were contained in the old agreement, and modifying their ability to have gas advantage homes. And if they don't have gas advantage, then they will pay a sum to the city for that, plus a penalty for every house that does not have gas advantage. It is recommended by myself for your approval and has been reviewed by staff and they've approved as well.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this item? And if there's none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Bob, you've got the next item, please.
Good evening, everyone. Would ask your consideration and approval of a contract with the Department of Natural Resources State Drinking Water Lab. The amount is for $9,200. They provide all of our regulatory water sampling, water quality sampling, and they present us with several advantages. The first of which is they actually are the lowest cost provider. The contract labs, private contract labs, cannot do some of the methods that they require and be cost competitive because they're specialized procedures. And secondly, we are assured of 100% regulatory acceptance and compliance because their lab is doing the work. So this presents a real advantage to us, and it's something that we've used for several years. The cost is the same as it was last year. It's $9,200, and it's based solely on population served. So would recommend your approval of that. It is a budgeted item.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? There's none, the motion will be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Bob. Mr. Sanders, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This memorandum of understanding is between the city and Georgia DOT regarding the Carter Street CSX crossing. The DOT is proposing to install new mast-mounted flashing lights, gates, and bells at 2 quadrants of that intersection. They have already paid CSX a $24,000 fee for the preliminary engineering that will need to take place. CSX is in the process of designing the project. What we are agreeing to do in this memorandum of understanding is to raise a fiber optic line that's in conflict with the gates and to provide some minor road work, extend some pipes, and possibly, possibly make Banger a one-way street. The gate assembly may encroach enough into Banger that we would have to make it a one-way street. We are working with them to try to avoid that, but if it is necessary, there is just one residence on Banger, so it's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a big impact. But we are recommending your approval for this memorandum of understanding.
Okay. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Sam, you've got the next couple, please. And then just as a heads up, before we take up the discussion item of the monthly financial statement, we will have a couple of items to add.
Yes, sir.
And we'll add those after Sam's done with his next two.
Yeah, next one is approval of the ongoing cable and telecom contract with GMA. They do such things as help us administer the cable TV franchise, and price tag on that's $8,000.
Okay. Any discussion on that? And if not, a motion's in order. I think you'd say, Louis, you have a comment.
I want to make a comment because several people have asked. The city has nothing to do with setting the rates for Comcast.
Yeah, anybody that's thinking about that may be throwing back to the days in the 80s when cities did have the ability to actually talk to the cable TV and set rates for them. That was taken away by the federal government, what, 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago?
20 to 30 years.
We haven't been involved in that for a long time. It's not that we're insensitive to what people pay for any utilities in town, but we do not control that one.
Excuse me, does that mean that the high prices we're paying regulated by the federal government?
They are not actually really regulated by the federal government. They're regulated by the market now.
Yeah.
Still don't have a chance to pay.
Any other discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Sam, you get the next one, please.
Yeah, we brought an IRS determination letter to you a couple council meetings ago, and at that point, the price tag on it was $15,000. Apparently, we went back to them through the ERISA attorney, and now they've decided, I'm being very kind, they've decided they need another $2,500 from us. So Keith said that even though you had approved the $15,000, that you need to approve the additional to bring the total to $17,500. I recommend that for your approval.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. As I mentioned, we do have 3 items to add. Chair will entertain a motion to add those 3 items.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
3 items added, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Thank you, Mayor. All 3 items are resolutions regarding the denial of anti-lighting notice claims involving accidents or claims that the city is an alleged party to. The first resolution is involving a Carolyn Lynn, which is a slip and fall at the library. It is recommended for y'all to deny that and by staff. So I would need a motion on that resolution.
Okay, Chair will entertain any motions.
Make a motion to deny Caroline Lynn.
To approve the resolution.
To approve the resolutions.
Thank you.
Sorry, I knew I was messing up there.
No, that's okay.
Make
Thank
a
you.
motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please, Keith.
The second one involves a annual item notice from the law offices of a Cheryl L. Burke involving an automobile accident with a city vehicle on I-75. And it is recommended that y'all deny that one as well, and the resolution should be approved by council.
Chair will entertain a motion on that item.
Motion to approve the
Second.
resolution.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And the third one, please.
The third one is a annual item notice from the Coughlin Law Group concerning a young girl who was injured at some gymnastics facility, hurt her leg, I believe. That one is also recommended to be denied, as their insurance company should be able to take care of that matter.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
We've had these quite a bit, from time to time, when people get hurt in the city. I'm wondering if they think it's because you got hurt on city property within the city of Cartersville that the city should pay?
Some people think so, sir, or some people may think the city may be responsible for the alleged incident that occurred. But yes, with most litigations and most claims, most people will tend to add in the party who has the deepest pockets. And if, like if an accident occurs at a shopping center where there's a, say, Publix and then a mom and pop store next door, odds are that the claim will also involve the public, since they have the deepest pocket. Just like if there's a claim involving a city vehicle or on city property that something happened, most people will add the city onto it because they want the deep pocket involved in the claim.
But probably the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
So I do have a motion, and did I do
I don't think there was a motion made on this one.
I'll
Okay.
make that motion.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
I've got a motion in a couple seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We do have a discussion item before we get to the financial report. Actually, Tom, you know what? Since you were up, come on.
I'll try to make this as brief as possible.
It's a
Honorable Mayor,
lovely shade of red you're wearing tonight.
I'm sorry. Honorable Mayor and Council will be looking at these October 2014 and comparing to October 2013. In the general fund, revenues increased over last year by $493,000. Expenses have increased by $1.4 million. This large increase is due mainly to increased personnel and increased operating expenses. We did have some resurfacing of the streets, and the school bond payment was made a month early. 3 years of revenue that I generally look at. Local option sales tax, we've had an increase over last year by $142,000. Police fines and forfeitures, we've got a decrease of roughly $36,000. And building permits and inspections, we have an increase of roughly $20,000. In the water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last year by $618,000. Expenses increased by $187,000. This is due mainly to increased personnel, increased operating, and increased capital expenses. In the gas fund, revenues increased over last year by $184,000. Expenses increased by $949,000. This is due to increased operating expenses, increased cost of purchased gas, and increased capital expenses. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by $1.3 million. Expenses increased by $924,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses and increased cost of electricity. In the stormwater fund, revenues have decreased over last year by $39,000, and this is due to the pre-disaster mitigation grant that we had in 2013. Expenses increased by $12,000. This is due mainly to increased personnel and operating expenses. In the solid waste fund, revenues increased over last year by $18,000, and expenses decreased by $56,000. This is due mainly to decreased personnel expenses and decreased operating expenses. And finally, in the off-fiber optics fund, revenues increased over last year by $24,000, and expenses increased by $34,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. That is my report for the year.
question, Mayor.
General fund's still in deficit. That'll be corrected with the property tax that we see coming in later in the year. Gas fund is in deficit. That'll be corrected when we sell gas, and cash is trending good.
Okay, Diane, you have a question?
I do. Tom, a year ago, building permits and inspection fees have almost doubled from a year ago. It's still low compared to what we've seen in some years, but is that a trend that we're seeing, Randy? Tom, is that a trend?
Currently, the way the billing and the way the billing market is going, we have seen a spike in residential units. Of course, with the billing going on, you're gonna have more and more inspection fees that also do.
I think the thing too to remember though is what you led in with, and that is even though we'll see comparisons to years past, and the state will send us information saying that sales taxes are up compared to last year, we're still way off of where we were in 2008.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that way we can try and paint it nice, but we still haven't recovered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Speaking of discussion, we do have a discussion item on the agenda for the downtown design plan. Ms. Courier.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On the heels of the downtown master plan that was approved in November of last year, lots of discussion about making downtown more pedestrian-friendly, connectivity between Friendship Plaza and Founder's Oak. So soon after the master plan was approved, DDA reached out to the Department of Community Affairs Design Studio to work on a downtown master design plan. These are mostly looking at the 4 quadrants around the train depot, North and South Wall Street, Founder's Oak, which is right here, across from City Hall next to the fountain, and Friendship Plaza. And so you have in your packet his conceptual design. Obviously, these are just suggestions, certainly nothing set in stone. But since his presentation at the open meeting on Tuesday, September 9th, board has had additional meetings about this, and we did have a meeting October 21st to discuss the plan in further detail. And you'll see kind of the order in which the board is hoping that we can see some of these changes implemented. Number 1 being the covered pavilion in Friendship Plaza. I know that's something that's been on the Cartersville master plan for many years. That is by far the number 1 thing that we hope to see accomplished. You'll see there number 2, the redo of the parking flow on Wall Street Museum Drive. That was a suggestion that someone else had made that would add what we thought might be a substantial number of parking spaces. It did not turn out to be that way, so sort of scratching number 2, then moving on to giving Friendship Plaza and Founder's Oak kind of that connectivity. Again, if you can see it in your packet, I know it might be black and white. I did bring a larger board, but expanding the lawn area in Friendship Plaza. So we want to have this great covered pavilion, and so to have an opportunity that more people could set up on the lawn, taking down the Christmas tree and actually moving it over to Founder's Oak. We definitely want to keep that tradition long-standing in downtown, but to add more concert space essentially in Friendship Plaza and add a little bit more green space to Founder's Oak would be the next couple of items, and then continued landscaping along Wall Street. Hopefully you've seen the lovely planter that was put in the planter box in front of It's About Time Boutique, but adding some more of that, and then ultimately doing some Church Street Bridge beautification. Again, these are sort of just the discussion items that DDA board would like to see everything done. It all comes down to where we can find the funds and partner with some other agencies to get loans and grants, hopefully, to accomplish these items. But obviously just want your input and feedback on what you think of our plan.
Tara, how involved does DOT have to be with the bridge? Any beautification? Because that's been discussed for a long time, the painting of the bridge or the brick pavers, and there's discussion about vibration of the bridge that knocks pavers off, and I just wondered.
We haven't gotten that far, so I would not be able to answer
There's
that
money
question.
on the SPOS for that, like I said, if it ever recovers. And I think that we've had quite a bit of discussion in-house relative to that.
And Mr. Sanders, does the DOT need to be involved in that at all, being that it's not a state road? Isn't that a local thing, or they regulate bridges all over the place?
Yes, sir. The bridge is ours. It doesn't belong to the DOT, but the federal government does require the DOT to inspect all the bridges in the state every 2 years. So the DOT does inspect that bridge, and they give us recommendations and advice on it. So in a way, they are somewhat involved, but ultimately it's our bridge and our responsibility. But the beautification, I think, at least the concept on the beautification that was looked at related to the 2014 SPOS would not have any structural effect on the bridge structure itself. It would be more aesthetic, so it wouldn't really, it was more painting and maybe the columns, putting some kind of decorative coating around them, that type of improvements, which DOT wouldn't have any issue with.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Discussion? I just know a lot of work's gone into it by the board and by you, and we appreciate that. Obviously, I was at a few of those meetings and seen the master plan, and it's I think it's always good when there's a lot of discussion on something, because all the work that you've put into it, I mean, it just means that people are passionate and care about what's going on in the downtown area. I know we've got a deep stable of active merchants and property owners that care about downtown, and it's certainly one of the crown jewels of our entire city is to have the downtown thriving the way it is. So I appreciate all the work that the DDA's put into it, and you as well, and the leadership to get the DCA involved.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thank you. Is there anything else to discuss on the master plan? We've had it.
Christmas.
Winter equinox.
Right.
Well, I was still kind of working on the discussion item. If council had any
I
other
thought we were
questions or
done.
design or.
No, I think it's great.
Okay. I'm happy you're happy.
This is all we have in our packet. Just tear
Yeah,
it
is
up.
there anywhere online
We
that people that might want to kind of see more or get more information on? Is there a website they can go to or a,
Tara, this is all we have.
just say
in our
no, I'm
packet.
sorry. If
Oh,
We just have this one sheet.
okay. I will certainly get that out to you if you don't already have it. I don't know that I have put it on the Downtown Cartersville website, but I can certainly do that. I mean, this has been proudly on display in our office down at the Welcome Center since we got it a couple months
Come on
ago.
downtown to the Welcome Center and you can see the master plan and more
Absolutely, and
elements of that.
any input or ideas people have, we welcome.
Thank you, Tara. All right, anything else that needs to come before council this evening? Solstice hikes or anything like that?
Winter equinox. Come on,
You don't want to get up.
come on.
Fell asleep.
Got all that money, now you don't want to talk about this.
Anyways, Solstice hike, December 21st, Sunday. I think we meet at 4:45. We also have the next full moon hike, which will be January the 4th. I forget what date that is. I think that's a Sunday too. And 4:45 again for that too.
Thank you very much.
No, y'all previously scheduled.
That is a Sunday, January 4th. Just as a note of that, since we've approved this in the past, but I want to make sure everybody knows we are shifting our meeting times. Typically, obviously, we meet at the first and third Thursdays of the month because New Year's is on a Thursday, which would be January 1st, obviously. We've shifted our meetings since there's 5 Thursdays in January anyway. We'll be meeting on January the 8th and January the 22nd, which are the 2nd and 4th Thursdays in January. And that'll get us back on our schedule and be meeting every other week from that point forward. We'll go back to our regular schedule for February. So in case you'd forgotten that we had mentioned that, or that we had approved that a few meetings ago, please be advised of that. Tonight's the third night of Hanukkah, so we wish those celebrating that event a very happy Hanukkah, and of course a Merry Christmas and a happy holidays to all of the citizens, and just a personal special thank you to council for allowing me to be part of this group for yet another year, come to the end of a calendar year, and certainly all the employees for their dedication to the city and to its citizens for doing what needs to be done day in and day out for making this place a great place to be.
Matt, we thank you too. I'm aware of how many hours you put into doing this and do it well, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to throw a platitude my way?
Merry Christmas and a motion to adjourn.
Adjourning Christmas? Not getting a rump out of that guy. Did you adjourn Christmas, Jay?
Oh, man, the Grinch.